Yeah, Shades of Culture, definitely. Eyeblass. Like, do you know who he's affiliated to? You know who Blicky is? Like,
Yeah,
Eyeblass is now affiliated to Reps Up, Reps Up Ovo, Reps Up. That's like Drake's camp. That's
yeah.
Drake's camp. Um, but see, that's the thing about English side of Montreal. I used to do journalism for Ghetto Erudit and taking care of the English portion of that radio show, and that's the thing. The French and the English side, when it comes to hip hop, unfortunately, that's really two worlds in a
Yep.
sense where one, unfortunately, not know the other. But yeah,
So
Shades
Rico's
of Culture
saying,
has been a while, but Blicky's there, like, and since
so
Blicky, there
Blicky's
was a
like
whole
late though. So Blicky, like, when I say late, as in, cause you're like coming into this 2004 or 5, right? So you're actually before when Montreal picks up at that point in time, like in your story. Because like the French side, I don't know how serious it was outside of Quebec or French hip hop in general. I don't even know at all where the state of French hip hop was at outside of it. I know English hip hop's lit, and the English community it had broken through, and all of my generation's obsessed with rap music from that point on. All of our parents know it's real. And then Rico's saying, let's say as of 2007, everything's starting to sound legit on the English side.
that's a fact.
So, and he's saying the French side was starting to sound legit late 90s, early 2000s. But I don't know what the rest of the world French hip hop sounded like, because that's where I would have just been. Because, yo, back then it was like, yo, French hip hop's a joke. Yo, we used to just laugh at it. Like the idea of French music, and I'm sure this is tied into my parents' language politics more than any real things.
Nope,
But
because it was part of me too. You see, that's funny. When I first started listening to rap and then I heard French rap, I think one of the first French rapper that I heard was Cédric. Cédric is a very like old timer French MC, and I respect its contribution to the culture as of today. But let me tell you that Olivier 20 years 15 years ago did not really appreciate his music. So for me, I started to get more into the American side of the hip hop because what I listened to in French at that point to me sucked, literally. That's before I heard Sans Pression and
but it
Doug Nasty.
wasn't like hip hop. It was like all French music here. Kind of, it's like watching Canadian TV was what it felt. And I don't mean this in like a way. It could be
No, no,
completely
no.
just my memories, but it felt like the entire Quebec media scene outside of whatever was on TV was like weaker. Like the music wasn't as good. Like it was like just not as good. You used to hear the French stations as you'd trickle on through, and you used to try to listen to some French, and you're like, yo, this isn't lit. And I don't think it was just the language, because France, that shit was always lit. That's got some timeless shit going on in there. But like, I don't know if so. I guess I just typecasted the whole French music, Quebec music. I'm like,
I think
nah,
it's I think it's a
I'm out.
confidence problem, to be honest with you, more than talent. Like, put it this way, there's no talent problem that we have in Quebec, whether it's in French or in English, or as I like to call it, you see, our beat making scene is the same thing as Quebec Guardians. Like, Quebec goaltenders in hockey are very popular in the NHL right now. This is exactly the same thing for Quebec's producer. They're very popular right now. They're popping a little bit here and there. But the French, the thing is that I think that even for French, right, it took a lot of time to just realize that we could have something on the same professional level as the English side. That took a lot of time. Because even myself, I started listening to English stuff before French.
Let's also just add the context that prior to 2007 ish, getting gear was way harder. I've talked to enough people that they've painted it 2005 ish is around when it got accessible. And it was until like, yo, by the time I come into the game, like you could have home studios. So we're talking
Yeah.
2012. So that might also just be part of why the sound wasn't lit, because who was putting the money into the studios and who is running that business. Because, yo, if you ever walk up to a person with 9 figures and talk music, they look at you like, bro, I'm going to go buy more paintings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Music's volatile. How can you confirm your
Facts.
ROI? And I'm like, shit, you got a point. It's a lot harder to prove an ROI in music. So to even get that initial grant for that first label, for that first, it must have taken like mountains of fucking effort. That
But
was like hard.
but then again, like having like because you're talking about different stuff that are not necessarily like, for example, like having a grant for a label, then for example, my man Mirko, he was the executive producer for all of the Obia Le Chef's album. And then Obia Le Chef is one of the greatest French rapper ever. Like hands down. Like even French people in France are calling him a goat here. And like it took my man Mirko, I think, 3 albums to get like an executive producer recognition. So I mean, I think that people in here in Quebec are not really doing their homework about what it takes to be in a business. And also, people need to stop taking the hip hop business as a plan B or as a side job. If people really want something to happen, it needs to be their fucking focus. It needs to be what they're plan A, B, C, D, and Z. That's the main issue in my case for here is that people are not really taking this seriously
Yeah, that's a big
because they
interest there.
always think that in Quebec we're not gonna succeed, we're not gonna go this and that, and then they take this as a plan B. Well, of course you're gonna take this as a plan B and not succeed. That's for sure.
Yo, hold up. On the French side, they feel like that too.
In all of it's the same thing in French or in English. Like I speak to all kinds of people every week, like a French side, English side, and it's the same thing. Like
Yo, that's like baffling to
you
me,
need to
right?
treat this as a
Because
business.
there is like this myth, I think, on the English side, and I might even partly believe in the myth. That's why I was so baffled. Is that like the French shit has like all these media outlets and all these things that exist, whereas and I know that the English side actually has so much that we just don't know about. Like there's so much out here. And it just looks like all the numbers are higher on the French side. All the things look fancier on the French side, so they must all be feeling better about it. But it's so like we're all the
Yeah,
same
but
at the end of the
at the
day.
same time, there's 1,000 French group. There's 4 group being promoted. So I mean, it's not really different from the English and the same French team. Of course, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, it might be a little different because in English there's really no grants whatsoever. Like there's not a lot of grants in English.
Nada.
That's a fact.
Well, you can go for
Unfortunately,
like the Canada ones, but like
yeah, but
that's
that's the
about it.
thing. Like when you're francophone, I think that you can apply for the Quebec and the Canadian one. But if you're anglophone, I mean, I think you only have to go. Your only
You
option
only
is to
have
go to the
Canada.
federal one. There you go. So see, that is a problem in itself. Like I'm not going to change it by saying it's a problem, but it is a problem. It definitely is. Mais je pense que French people, that's one thing also, because those options are available, in my opinion, that brings a little laziness sometimes to some people. Because for
Fascinating.
an English cat to have that same money, guy needs to person needs to be like on his P's and Q's like all day, leave the country, do this, do that. For French people, it's easier. So sometimes
Yeah,
I feel like they rely on that.
I like honestly like I just figured I'm gonna just get promoted at work and finance it that way.